In this class, we are going to discuss about the electron transport chain a little bit more detail and the mechanism of oxidative phosphorylation. So last class I have already discussed about the utilization of energy and capture of energy and transfer of energy, and the main energy currency as ATP, which we utilize for the purpose of this coupling of exergonic and endergonic reaction. ATP hydrolysis is an exergonic reaction which is coupled with some endergonic reaction. So thermodynamically to make delta G negative and make the reactions forward. Now we are going to discuss, I have already told you that this electron transport chain is actually present in our powerhouse as mitochondria and its inner membrane. So with this introduction, we are going to see what are the electron transport chain. Please. So components of electron transport chain. What are the components? They are nothing but different enzyme protein complexes. So there are 4 complexes comprising of this total electron transport chain. Now first is complex 1, complex 2, complex 3 and complex 4. Some books have given complex 5 as component of electron transport chain. This is wrong. That is ATP synthase complex, never a part of the electron transport chain. Please correct it. Now complex 1 consists of FMN and FES. FMN, flavin mononucleotide, and FES is the iron sulfur protein. So I am not going to detail this particular structure. It is given in the books. If you are interested, you can go through, and they are actually, the complex 1 can take up electron and pass it to the next carrier. Now complex 2 made of FAD, flavin adenine dinucleotide, and also iron sulfur protein. Now iron sulfur, flavin is the vitamin derivatives that you all know. It is an iron sulfur protein is made up of iron and sulfur mainly. And these divalent ions, metals, plays very important role in carrying electrons because they can be oxidized as well as reduced. So they can carry electron from whenever required, and they can release electron also. They can be reduced as well as oxidized. So they play a very important role in this transfer of electrons. Now complex 3 is made up of cytochrome B. Cytochrome is a heme containing enzyme, cytochrome B, also FES, and cytochrome C1. So cytochrome mainly consists of iron, heme containing enzymes, and complex 4 is made up of cytochrome A3 complex. They consist of iron as well as copper. They are also bivalent ions. Now in this complex there are 2 other components as well, coenzyme Q as well as cytochrome C. They are also involved in the electron transport chain. They not only helps in the transport, but they also work as a mobile electron carrier. they can carry electron from one side of the membrane to the other, from inner membrane to the outer membrane or vice versa. So these are very important, and these complexes are situated in the inner membrane. Now some reducing equivalents I have listed here, which can be oxidized like NADH. NADH is generated from, these are the reactions. Bisaldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase can give rise NADH. Succinate isocitrate dehydrogenase, malate dehydrogenase, succinate dehydrogenase, glutamate dehydrogenase. So beta hydroxy acyl CoA dehydrogenase. So they can give rise to a lot of NADH to reducing equivalents in the different pathways, glycolysis, beta oxidation, citric acid cycle, and FAD is generated also in similarly in different pathway. So these ultimately being reduced by transferring electron from here to the other end. Now how? What is the mechanism? How electron is transferred from one end to another? There must be some potential difference, otherwise the electron cannot be moved. So we will go in more detail. Next please. Now first of all we will just name the complexes. What are the name of these enzymes? Complex 1 is also named as NADH coenzyme Q reductase or NADH dehydrogenase. So NADH can be reduced, dehydrogenase. Hydrogen can be removed from the NADH by the complex 1, or NADH to coenzyme Q transferred the electron. Complex 2 succinate coenzyme Q reductase. From succinate to the coenzyme Q, the electron is transported. Complex 3 is a cytochrome reductase known as cytochrome reductase, and complex 4 is cytochrome oxidase. So these are the different enzyme complexes, and each complex accepts or donates electrons. Coenzyme Q and cytochrome C, as I have already told you, are the mobile electron carriers in the electron transport chain. And these whole complexes are situated in the inner mitochondrial membrane. So reducing equivalents are produced in the inner mitochondria, in the mitochondrial matrix as a result of beta oxidation or citric acid cycle, or transported from the cytochrome to the mitochondria and ultimately utilized through this electron transport chain to be further oxidized and gives rise to energy. Next. So how free energy is released? So first of all we see how electron is transferred. The free energy released as electron transferred along ETC as the flow of current. So we get our tube lights, our fans, all are fine working. So from an electron donor, which is a reducing agent or reactant, to an electron acceptor or oxidizing agent or oxidant. The electron can be transferred as follows. In different forms, electron can be transferred from reductant to the oxidant. Hydride ions, H minus, or as hydrogen atoms, or as electron only. Hydrogen atoms mean one proton plus one electron, H plus E. Hydride ions means H plus E, another electron is there. So these are the various ways they are transported. To NAD it is transported this way, from to FMN, coenzyme Q, FAD transported this way, and to cytochrome as electron only. So this will go a little more detail. Next please. So the basic way how electron is transported, what is the driving force? The driving force is definitely like current flow, because of the potential difference. Here is the redox potential playing the main important role for transporting electron from one end to another end. Flow of electron through ETC through redox pairs due to increasing redox potentials. This increasing redox potential are arranged, the complexes are arranged in increasing redox potential. That's why oxygen at the one end has a highest redox potential. In the other end, NAD has the lowest redox potential. That's why they are transported, the electron is transported through the electron transport chain, and that gives us energy. How energy is produced we will discuss in our oxidative phosphorylation chapter. Now you first look at the redox. What are redox pairs? Redox pairs, if you can look at this reaction, NADH plus H plus is reduced to NAD plus. Now FMN, the complex one, is reduced to FMNH2. So two reactions are coupled here. And if you just break these two reactions, you will find NADH plus H plus is converted to NAD plus 2 electron plus 2 protons. And redox pair, these are the redox pair, oxidation reduction pair, these are oxidation reduction pair. The standard reduction potential is minus 0.32 volt. Now this another set of reactions, FMN plus 2E plus 2H plus is converted to FMNH2. They have redox pairs, they are the redox pairs, and they have standard reduction potential denoted by E0 is 0.22 volt, minus 0.22 volt. So from minus 0.32 to minus 0.22. So positive, increasing redox potential. So that's why this electron is shifted from this redox pairs to another redox pairs, along with the proton, of course. Proton is also carried out. So movement of the electron from one end to another because of these redox pairs are playing very important role, and they are arranged in increasing redox potential. Now here you can have some examples. NADH plus NADH plus minus 0.32, as I already told you. FMN, FMNH2, they have minus 0.22. Cytochrome C, Fe3 plus and Fe2 plus 0.07, 0.07, and oxygen half O2 plus will be converted, half O2 and H2O is 0.82. So now it is clear, because of the increasing redox potential, ultimately oxygen accepts the electron from the NADH. You can always ask, where is the proton now, sir? That plays the key role of generating ATP. That we will also find in the oxidative phosphorylation chapter. So now, till now we have been able to understand that components with large negative reduction potential, standard reduction potential, are strong reducing agents, strong tendency to release electron. It's clear? And so redox and components with more positive standard reduction potential are strong oxidizing agent, so strong tendency to capture electron. So that is the whole concept of the redox pairs and redox potentials. So there are the different examples as I have already told you. So standard reduction potential is related to delta G. Delta G is related to standard reduction potential. The free energy is released and directly related. That we will find in the next slide. Please. Here you can see the formula. Delta G is equal to minus NF delta E0. That N is equal to number of electron transferred, F is the Faraday's constant, and standard reduction potential is the reduction potential of electron accepting pairs minus standard reduction potential of electron donating pairs. So you can see how it is related. So standard reduction potential is related to the free energy. So as much as electron will flow, the energy will be generated. The free energy is generated and released, and that free energy has to be captured in the form of some high energy phosphates, mainly ATPs play very important role. So delta G degree of ATP, when ATP is hydrolyzed, you will find it is plus 7.3 or 7.4 kilocalorie per mole. Transport of a pair of electron from NADH to oxygen via ETC produces 52.8 kilocalorie. Please keep it in mind. You will be discussing this point later. More than sufficient energy for 3 ATP. 3 ATP, as per the old theory, you will get 3 ATP in the biological in the oxidative phosphorylation, that we will discuss. As per the recent theory, it is 2.5 into 3. ATP is less, 3 ATP, 2.5 ATP is generated. So we consider it is 3 ATP, so we can calculate the amount of energy we can capture, almost 22 kilocalorie. So out of this much of energy released, 52.8 kilocalorie, almost more than the double, we are capturing only 22 kilocalorie. So please keep it in mind, we will discuss it later. Next. Now, this electron transport chain could be blocked by certain drugs or chemicals. They are known as inhibitors. So transport of electron can be hindered, can be stopped. They are known as inhibitors of the electron transport chain. And these are the reagents by which we have been able to study the electron transport chain in more detail, and later on we have generated certain drugs as well. So some of the examples are there, like this NADH FMN1. There are some inhibitors which are acting in this pathway. Now site 1 is actually affected by, these are the drugs or chemicals. Pyridine, they are antibiotic. Barbiturates or amobarbital, a sedative. Rotenone, the fish poison actually, insecticides. The chloropromazine, the type of drugs which are used for the prevention of nausea, vomiting, and alkyl guanides, they are also hypotensive drugs, can block the site 1. So they are the inhibitors of the site 1 of the electron transport chain, previous one. So NADH2, FMN, FES or complex 1 can be inhibited. Now complex likewise there are some other inhibitors as well. So please next slide, come to the next slide. So site 2 is blocked by the British anti-leucite, an antidote of wire gas. The wire gas, lot of poisonous gas. As you know, wire gas has to be was utilized in the Second World War. At that time, these antidotes were given to the soldiers to prevent the toxicity of those gases. British anti-leucite is one of them. That blocks the site 2. Actinomycin A, another antibiotic, and naphthoquinone, that is also able to block the site 2. That means complex 2 to coenzyme Q, that site. Now complex 3 by some cytochrome A3 to the oxygen acceptor. That is blocked by this following: carbon monoxide, H2S, cyanide and azide. During the nitrogenous complex, cyanide group of complex, they can block the cytochrome oxidase directly. They are inhibitors of those particular complex 3 to final electron acceptor. So site 4, which is actually related to complex 2 to coenzyme Q, these steps are inhibited by this carboxyl, malonate and TTF. So these are the chemicals which can block those sites. So different inhibitors are listed in your books also, please go through, and these are one of the common areas of questions. So what are the inhibitors? That is generally asked in the Viva question. So please try to remember at least 1 or 2 of different inhibitors of different sites. So next. Now there are some inhibitors of oxidative phosphorylation as well. I am going to discuss the oxidative phosphorylation, but previously I am going to discuss the inhibitors. So some listing of those inhibitors. Atractyloside inhibits the ATP ADP exchange, which is exchange transporters. Oligomycin inhibits ATP synthase. Ionophores, different ionophores are there, they permit specific cations to penetrate membrane. So I will go through in details later how they actually works. Valinomycin, another antibiotic, niacin, another antibiotic, they blocks this transport of these particular ions, potassium and potassium hydrogen. So these are the inhibitors as such. That means when they are utilized, the particular oxidative phosphorylation is stopped. First, there are a group of inhibitors of the electron transport chain which blocks the transfer of electron, and next there are some inhibitors of the oxidative phosphorylation. That means they prevent the formation of ATP. The oxidation is carried out, but the formation of ATP is also prevented. In this group there are another very important reagents or chemicals known as uncouplers. The uncouplers allows the oxidation to carry through, but prevention of formation of ATP. So they uncouples the oxidative process, oxidative phosphorylation process to the electron transport chain, that means the oxidation process. So oxidation process is the process blocked by the inhibitors, and oxidative phosphorylation process is blocked by these inhibitors of the oxidative phosphorylation as well as uncouplers. So make it very clear, and we are going to discuss the uncouplers in a little bit more detail. Here physiological uncouplers are there, certain physiological uncouplers are there known as thioxin, long chain fatty acids, thermogenin, and there are some chemicals, the list of chemicals, ionophores, 2,4-dinitrofenol, 2,4-dinitrocresol, etc. So these are the chemicals which can be used to stop the formation of the ATP, synthesis of the ATP, but oxidation will be carried out. Next please. So before we go into the oxidative phosphorylation process, we should know about the character of the coenzyme Q. Coenzyme Q is very much important component of the electron transport chain, which is a mobile electron carrier. Now this Q can be fully oxidized, semiquinone, or can be reduced. So they can accept and release electrons. That is the most, and they can move from one end of the membrane to the other end. So they can not only take and move the electron, but also they can pump the proton from inner mitochondrial membrane to the inner membranous space, from the matrix to the inner membranous space. That we are going to discuss, and through a cycle known as Q cycle. Next please. So this is a Q cycle. You can see here is reduced, fully reduced. So what they have done, electron has come from complex 1 or complex 2, and one proton is taken from the matrix. This is the matrix, and this is the outside of the this is the outside of the inner membrane, that is the intramembranous space. So H is taken and Q is reduced, and this reduced Q is mobile and moved to the other end, releasing outside of the inner mitochondrial membrane. The H plus is reduced, thereby making Q oxidized. So what happens? The electron along with the proton, one proton is released, and this electron via cytochrome is again going from one end to the another end, and this QH plus again release another proton, and the oxidized Q is again going and accepts another H plus from the matrix, and they unite with us to semiquinone form, and then again it takes another electron and another proton to be fully reduced. So these are the cycle going on. Whenever electron is being transported, the electron along with the proton is also transported, but in proton this is not only transported, but it is pumped out from the matrix to the inner membranous space, making a gradient. So inner membranous space have a proton rich region which has a gradient more, and which has a tendency to go again inside matrix. So proton is pumped out as well as electron is moved from one complex to the another complex. That is a very important role played by this coenzyme Q and known as the Q cycle. Next please. So complex 3 organized as a proton pump. The semiquinone form of the coenzyme attached on each side of membrane by cubinide protein, and QH2 and Q are mobile. So these are the mobile. Semiquinone form is not mobile. When semiquinone form is there, they takes up electron and proton, electron from the previous complex and proton from the matrix. So matrix proton is also again released whenever QH2 is converted to Q+. So each electron transport is simultaneously accompanied by a proton pump. The proton gradient is produced. The next please. So these are the chemi-osmotic theory of osmotic oxidative phosphorylation. We know we have a three-way of phosphorylation or synthesis of ATP. One by photosynthesis, which is only possible in the plants. There is some ATP is produced at the substrate level, that is in the cytosols. Substrate level phosphorylation is also possible. One example is glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate to 1,3-bisphosphoglyceride, and therefore ATP is generated. 2,3-phosphoglyceride and ATP is produced from this high energy phosphate. Because these are known as substrate level phosphorylation. But main supply of energy is produced as a result of mitochondrial oxidative phosphorylation. So here is the mechanism, as I have already discussed. When electron is passing through, this is the mitochondrial structure. There is the electron transport chain arranged in the inner membrane, and whenever there is passage of electron through the components, then there is proton is pumped out. This proton is pumped out from matrix to the inner membrane space, and this proton cannot again go through the membrane. They are allowed only one particular door for entering the membrane. Because of the gradient, they try to enter, but they cannot. So there is only one area where this proton can be again passage through to the matrix, and that is the area known as ATP synthase complex. This is the F0 component, this is the F1 component of the ATP synthase complex. This is a membrane bound, this F0, where there is a group through which the proton can be again taken back into the matrix, and these driving force, conformational changes happen in the ATP synthase. We will discuss in little more detail, which causes ADP plus Pi to form ATP. So whole electron transport chain is not only an electron transport chain, it also acts as a proton pump, and this proton pump helps making the proton gradient outside the inner mitochondrial membrane, which tries to re-enter through the ATP synthase complex, thereby causing some conformational changes. I have discussed what is conformational changes, what is configurational changes. You can just remember our previous classes. The conformational changes mean breaking of different non-covalent forces, breaking of different non-covalent bonds by releasing lot of energy, and that energy is utilized to formation of this high energy phosphate bond. From ADP to Pi, it is converted to ATP. So there are three sides actually. So complex 1 to coenzyme Q, then complex 2 to coenzyme Q, and of course complex 3. And these three ATP are actually given as per old theory. Now 2.5 ATP is actually, as per modern theory, we are getting per transport of NADH2 to the finally oxidized in the through the electron transport chain. Next please. Now before I go into further detail, I just discuss about the uncouplers. So I have told you what are the uncouplers. They can uncouple the oxidation from the phosphorylation. So oxidation process, the electron transport from the electron transport chain can be blocked by the inhibitors of the electron transport chain. But uncouplers does not block that oxidation process. They allowed the oxidation, but uncouples means they inhibit the phosphorylation. How they inhibit phosphorylation? Because of the uncouplers helps in getting the proton through the membrane again to the matrix. They reduce the gradient by different ionophores, but through the membrane they allows these uncouplers. And one of the uncoupler I have told you is thyroxine and thermogenin, that is present in the brown adipose tissue. Some thermogenin is there, and long chain fatty acids that I will discuss a little bit when we will discuss about the fatty acids metabolisms. So what they do, they make the whole electron transport chain to be regulated properly, to be utilized properly, and to be continuously carried out, because we need the generation of ATP. So we cannot stop electron transport chain anytime. We have to carry it through. So what is the mechanism by which electron transport chain is always running? Though we have lot of ATPs, but still electron transport chain carried out. Why? As I have told you in earlier slides, that some maximum amount of energy is actually lost, generated as heat, not captured. Out of 52 kilocalorie almost, we capture only 22 kilocalorie. Why it is? Because these thyroid hormones, thyroxines, play a very important role here, uncoupling the reactions. So most of the reactions carried out at oxidation, heat is generated, energy is generated, but doesn't captured as ATPs. So this has a very vital importance. One, that energy released actually makes the forward reaction or spontaneous reaction possible. So electron transport chain is an oxidative phosphorylation is always carried out. Otherwise oxidation will have stopped. So most of the energy is released as heat, and that helps in the driving force of the electron transport chain. Otherwise, another one important cause is the generation of the heat. That heat generation is required to maintain our body temperature, which is again required for all our enzymes to work in optimum range. And that's why even in our rest, even in the basal metabolism, like pumping of heart, transport, the circum conductions, everything is going on, and ATP is required. But the enzyme should work in those basal conditions as well, and that is possible because the heat is maintained. Optimum temperature in our body, like 37 degree, is maintained, and that is because of this thyroxine. So where when we have deficient of thyroxine, like in hypothyroidism, we become fatigue, flabby, we can loss of energy. And when it is hyperthyroidism, we are become very much toxic, energetic toxic, energetically toxic actually. hypermetabolism is there. That is also detrimental for us. So this is a very important relationship that you should know the role of thyroxine in the electron transport chain. Now there are way of generation of ATPs that amount of the ATP is generated through electron transport chain depends of entering the NADH or FADH into the matrix to be utilized in the electron, oxidized in the electron transport chain. So two subtle pathways are there by which NADH, extramitochondrial NADH, can be entered in the matrix. So there are two subtle. One is glycerophosphate subtle. Here you can see the NADH plus H plus is converted to glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase from dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and this helps in transport because these are transporter and entered into the inner mitochondrial membrane. The glycerophosphate is again converted to dihydroxyacetone phosphate, and FAD is converted to FADH2, and they are oxidized to the complex 2 of the electron transport chain. So in this way, FADH2 can give rise to, as per old theory, 2 ATPs, but as per new theory it is 1.5 ATPs. Next, another subtle is the malate subtle. This malate subtle is that NADH plus H plus reduced and whenever oxidized, whenever oxaloacetate is converted to malate, and malate also has a certain molecules has transporters through the inner mitochondrial membrane. Not all the molecules. These are the two molecules, glycerophosphate and this malate. The malate goes into the inside, converted to oxaloacetate again by making NADH plus H plus NADH plus to NADH plus. These are the inner mitochondrial matrix where the NAD plus is converted to NADH2. So these reducing equivalents will be utilized in the electron transport chain, and this will give rise to 3 electron, or as per modern theory 2.5 electron. Why? Complex 2 to coenzyme Q means one step is less. From complex 1 to coenzyme Q and complex coenzyme Q to complex 3 and complex 3 to complex 4. These are the 3 steps where ATP is supposed to be generated, but one step is missed whenever they enter through the glycerophosphate circle. So these are the minor things which are asked in the examination. So you must remember and practice the circular pathways. That is also asked in the examination. Next. So these are the like other reducing equivalents. The phosphates and ADPs has also to be transported through the inner mitochondrial membrane by a special ATP transporter. That is only the thing that you don't have to remember all those diagrams. Because of this, that you can see the proton is pumped. This is outside and this is inside. The proton is entering along with this is the transporter where ATP is entered as well as ADP is also entered, and they have a cycle as well. So you can go through in your books, it is there. So this is a transporter system, and ATP and ADP. ATP is going inside, and ATP generated in the mitochondria also can come outside in the cytosol. Next please. Now in a nutshell, I'll just jot down some important points of the oxidative phosphorylation. Electron transport chain provides most of the energy captures in metabolism. So final metabolism is through the electron transport chain. The chemiosmotic theory explains the mechanism of oxidative phosphorylation. Chemiosmotic means there is osmosis of proton, pump of proton outside and re-entering the proton through the ATP synthase complex. I will give you detail of the ATP synthase complex. The ETC is a proton pump. I have told you already. The coenzyme Q cycle is the proton motive cycle. So proton will be pumped out through this cycle. A membrane located ATP synthase forms ATP. We are going to discuss this next. Many poisons inhibit respiratory chain, out of which there are inhibitors which inhibit the respiratory chain, that means the oxidation process only. Uncouplers dissociate oxidation from phosphorylation. This allows generation of heat through the oxidation but does not allow formation of ATP, which is indirectly one of the driving force for carrying out the electron transport chain and oxidative phosphorylation process. The relative permeability of the inner mitochondrial membrane necessitates exchange transporters, transport of reducing equivalents and ADP transporters. That I have given a gist of all the discussion I have made. Now please go to the next slide. So I will discuss the ATP synthase complex a little more. Please. So these are the complex. It is given in your diagram in your books. You can go through. This is like a rotor, have a axle. Now there are complexes actually detailed like this. So this is the ATP synthase complex. This is the membrane bound complex, that is F1, and this consists of some C proteins subunits, and these are actually it's like a rotor, and we have a axle, bent axle in the gamma, and F0 is made up of 3 alpha and 3 beta. So here, because of the proton pumping, the ATP plus ADP plus Pi, because of the energy through conformational changes, are converted to ATP, and this is the ATP synthase complex, which plays very important role in oxidative phosphorylation. So we just may be required to remember simplified form of this diagram, and don't make mistake of mentioning it as complex 5. That is a wrong concept. So thank you all for sound listening, and please keep yourself safe. We are still not out of danger, and we have to fight COVID always in every steps. Thank you all.